Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Sunday Night Live. I am super excited to have my friend Craig Badura with me tonight. Hello, Craig. How are you?
How are you, Tish? Good to see you again, finally.
I know it's been a really, really long time since we've even seen each other screen to screen. So
It
it's
is.
great to have you on the show. And I
Thanks
hear
for
you
having me.
absolutely. I've been at the lake. You have been on the golf course
Yes,
today. So summer mode for both of us.
totally in full summer mode, and I'm loving every minute of it.
Same. It's the best. And I just got to go to your neck of the woods. I actually drove right through Aurora, Nebraska on my way to Omaha this last week. And first time ever in Nebraska. It's an awesome state.
And you had Runza, which I'm sure we're going to dig into. So I'm probably
We're,
getting
we're gonna
ahead of
we're
myself.
gonna dig into it. Yes.
So
But
what'd you think of Nebraska, the topography, the landscape? Were you
I thought
bored on the interstate?
not at all. I thought it was great. Everybody was so friendly and I had great food and I enjoyed the drive. I enjoyed just the peacefulness of it and not having to deal with tons of traffic, just being able to hit the road and just go straight,
Yeah,
straight
it's
all the way
pretty
to Omaha.
simple. Yeah, and you were on the most boring part of the state, which is uneventful. I mean, if you'd had more time, we'd take you up to the sand hills, maybe out western Nebraska. But it was good to have you here. And did your conference go well?
Oh my gosh, it was amazing. I got to spend the day with incredible CTE, Family and Consumer Science educators. So those of you who don't know what CTE stands for, it's Career and Technical Education. And they were just incredible and so welcoming, so kind, and just such a great vibe, such a great energy. So I could have hung out there all week. So I was really, really grateful for the experience for sure.
That's awesome. And I'm sure they were excited to see you as well. So that was good to have you here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if anybody is joining into this episode, please say hi in the chat. I would love always to chat and engage with you. But today is all about the power of global connections. And the reason why I reached out to Craig, first of all, I was in his state this last week. So we connected after a really long time. We've been connected for a long time, but had the opportunity to chat. But really, my story begins with Craig. And some of you have heard, my message, my story, and I talk about kind of this pivotal year in education. It was 2014, and I was a teacher who was just kind of on the brink of burnout. I wasn't really sure what my next steps were. And I went to this conference in Coconut Grove, Florida. I had won. I don't know if you knew this, Craig, but I actually won that trip.
You did?
Yeah.
Really?
So
I don't think you ever told me that.
yeah. So to take a step back further, I was in Arizona in, I think it was June of that year. I had just gotten iPads in my classroom and I didn't know how to use them. So I was researching professional development because part of my funding was going to be able to get professional development to go to a conference. And I was having a hard time finding something within the window of time that I had to find. You know how the budget year goes. You have to have it, but you have to do it before a certain date. So I found this conference in Arizona called iPad Palooza. And so I went, and that was really where I started to figure out that there was a Twitter for educators. Like people were actually connecting in that space. And I had never done that before. And then as I was connecting, I saw them post on social media that there was this conference coming up in Miami called Miami Device. Yeah. And I was like, oh, that sounds really cool. Like Miami Device, I am a girl of the 80s. Like that.
Oh, yes.
Fun vibe. And they had asked if you wanted to win registration in a hotel night stay, that you needed to create something explaining why you wanted to go to this conference and then share it out on social. And I didn't have a very big social following at that time, but I was kind of excited because I'd learned some things at iPad Palooza. And I'm like, you know what? I can do this. I can share why it would be a good idea. It was my birthday weekend. It was going to be happening. I don't know if you remember that. It was my birthday over the time that we were there.
Yep.
And so I ended up winning the hotel night and the registration to go, and I made it happen, and I got to meet you and other incredible educators And that was
Yes.
really like the beginning for me of really realizing, wow, like this is super cool to connect with educators that are out of my specialty, which was culinary arts, to connect with educators that were out of my district. I'd never done that really before in that kind of a way.
Yeah,
And um and we had such an incredible time.
we
And
did.
I mean,
It was so good.
so fun. And
And
so
that's the
that
first time that I think I had done something similar too. That I had left. I'd done some stuff in state, but like yourself, that was the first time that and I was so excited to go to Miami. So it was
yes,
just like I'm leaving Nebraska to go to Miami for a tech conference in a small, because it was at a school, right? If I remember right, the Coconut Grove. I don't even know what the school district was called, but
I
it was,
don't know either. I don't know either. I know Felix Jacamino, I believe, was the
yeah,
one that was organizing it. I think
yeah,
they still have that conference going on, but now it's called Shift in EDU.
yep,
And I thought it would be really cool to be able to go back. But yeah, it was a really kind of a neat, small conference, small vibe. There was some really great people in the group that we connected with,
ah,
Michael Matera and Rodney Turner. And
Brent Catlett, Brent
yes,
Catlett, yes. Who
yes,
who
incredible.
else? Because I don't know how we all really kind of like hooked up. It was because of Twitter, right? Because of the power of us being connected. And
I think
what year was that? Was it 10 years ago already?
it was
I think it was.
2014. It was
Yeah.
2014. And yeah, I think Rodney Turner was in that group. And I think he might have been like the one that knew, like kind of brought us. I don't know if I'm thinking of this correctly, but I feel like he might have been the one that kind of pulled people in. But I just feel like we were all standing around in a courtyard chatting
I
and like
think so.
waiting to go to Miami, like to go into Miami or
Yeah,
into Miami for
and then
dinner.
we went out and we were trying to have dinner, remember, and everything was just packed down there. And so I'm sure you still have, I probably have the picture somewhere too, is that picture we all took it. And we had supper that night and we've all stayed connected, which is just totally amazing. Oh, yeah, there you got the picture. Yes. So it's
There it
just
is. Yes,
random people from Twitter, creepy meetup.
right? I
And
know.
the power of hooking up with other people. And I got to meet Rodney. Gosh, it's probably been 5, 6. We went to Phoenix about every Christmas for about 5 or 6 years here. So I reached out to him, and we had oregano's pizza, and I've kept in touch with Brent Catlett. I just saw him this year. He's working for Apple now. So,
Oh,
what an
yeah.
amazing connection. And yeah, so it's just neat that we've still continued those connections with those people.
Absolutely. I love that you connected with Brent. I was wondering how he's doing. He's been with Apple for a little while now.
Yeah.
And
Yep. Yep. His
um,
kids are all grown up like ours have. And so it's just kind of neat to think, wow, that was 10 years ago that we just went on a whim and went to a conference. And I don't know why I went. I know you had won. Do you remember what did you present on?
I didn't. I just
Oh, you
went.
didn't? God, I
I
swear that Brent and I presented. I can't remember. Gosh, I must be my age. I can't remember now. It might
Yeah,
have been just Twitter for EDU. It might have been something like Twitter for Education. I don't know. I
no,
can't remember.
I was super new in the ed tech space. I was just like really trying to get inspired and
Yeah.
grab ideas. And I was probably 1.5 to 2 years later that I began presenting. And I started getting really into gamification, thanks to Michael Matera, who was also in
Yeah.
that picture that I have up here. He's I got to go into my picture here again.
You
He
guys are
is,
both established authors now, too. We should mention and give a little shout out to you.
uh, yeah, well, I'm super grateful for that journey too. But yeah, I don't think even at that time that Michael wasn't an author at that time.
No.
So that was new. So yeah, it's been
Yes.
a crazy, crazy journey. But it's just really cool, I think, to think about that and think about how just just how being connected has enriched
Mm-hmm.
my journey
Yeah.
so much. And in those times where I've been discouraged or,
Yep.
feeling burnout or maybe not feeling connected to the people in my sphere,
Yeah.
my local sphere,
Yep.
I've been able to reach out for inspiration in those other places, whether it's Twitter or Instagram. I mean, there's lots of platforms out there now, and everybody has kind of a different space. But
Yeah.
it's really powerful when we can reach out beyond our walls of our district, out of our school, and realize there are a lot of really incredible things that are happening and there are incredible educators doing awesome things for kids But if we can tap into that power and that passion and that enthusiasm and be inspired by maybe those ideas, and doesn't mean that we have to bring them into our classroom in that exact same way, but maybe we can do our own thing with them. Maybe that will inspire us to take that idea and run with it in our own direction.
Well, look what we did. I mean, you like you had said, you might have been a little burned out, and I think just back in that time frame, and even today too, is I think we just really can get complacent in our own learning spaces, in our own classrooms with our own colleagues, and just being a connected educator, I think, has so many valuable things that we can do with it. You know, like you mentioned, is just reaching out to people. If you know you don't want to talk to somebody in your building, reach out to somebody on Twitter and Instagram that you follow, and just sharing ideas. That's what the one thing that I think that I gained the most was just getting ideas and being an idea bandit and stealing one of Mike's ideas. Remember that night we just sat around and we talked about gamification in the classroom. I was just consumed by that, and it's like, oh, I never thought about this. And so it's just that one idea that person shared that we met from the Twitterverse, and the rest is history. And so it's just, to this day, it's great to still be a connected educator. And I know social media gets a lot of blame for some bad things sometimes, but gosh, it's been so good for me in my, last 10, 15 years of being an educator. And I can't imagine the growth that I've had professionally without social media, just to think of that as I'm pondering that in my brain here.
Absolutely. Well, when I was at this conference in Nebraska, I'm going to share a story about the Runza in just a second. But I shared that story, and I shared this picture actually of us in Miami, and in the crowd, I heard people saying, Craig Badura, like they knew you. And at first I thought, well, maybe they know him from, maybe they're part of his district, or maybe, right. I didn't know. And then it turned out afterwards, as I was chatting with educators after my session, they said, oh no, we know him from social media. We know him from Twitter.
Isn't that crazy? So, we all know somebody that we know them, right? That we've never actually met him, but we've all done that. So it's just, yeah, I guess and Nebraska is a pretty small state too, but I was pretty active there on social media. So I guess that helps.
Well, and I think that just goes to show that you really don't know, like you can put something out there on social and you really don't know its reach. You don't know that, what you're sharing is really going to impact other people, but it does. And
well, I made I don't know if that was before Miami. I'd have to go back and look on that blog. I think it was before I made that digital citizenship survival kit, because I taught that in my classroom with kinders. And I loved to use manipulatives in the classroom. And so I just threw this. You can go to if you just Google digital citizenship survival kit, Craig Badura, and it'll pop up. And I made a real simple one just from some stuff in my garage. And then I kind of did version 2.0. And I remember tweeting and putting it on my blog, and it just literally blew up. And I had people from Australia, literally all over the world, asking me, can we steal this idea? Can we tweak it a little bit here? And they would send me samples. And I got this big thing from California from a teacher. Here, we did this big conference with kids, and every kid got their own tool belt with all the tools you talked about. And so just one little tweet, and I shared that in a blog post, and I tweeted it, and it just went like global, which was just like, it's just a random weird idea that I had. But, and people, I love seeing people take that and share that with other people as well.
Absolutely. There used to be, well, there still is this YouTube clip on, I don't know. I saw someone share it once, and I'm trying to remember, oh my gosh, something severs, but it's about this whole idea of we can go about our business, right, every day in our classroom and do our own thing, and we think it's ordinary. We don't think it's anything special, and we see other people post their things, and we think, oh my gosh, that's incredible! Like, look what they're doing. But then we don't realize that those things that we do that are ordinary, that might just be normal to us, might be extraordinary and groundbreaking to somebody else. And so that is, I think, the power in when we share those things that we do. It doesn't matter if we think they're special or not, because we're probably not going to think they're special if we,
we don't. And you might have done it for 5 or 10 years, and then you share it, and it's like, why did I never think of that? So, we've all had something like that. We learn from somebody within our own building. I'm sure a lot of us, via social media, you're like, oh, what a great idea. Can I use that? Can I modify it for my classroom? So I think it gives us the power of staying fresh in our classroom too, because I know being a teacher is pretty hard right now. And so I think especially I've noticed the last 5, even I'd say 4 years, not maybe even 5, just 4. Just kids are changing. The dynamics in our classroom are changing. And I think, I could sit and blame social media, which I think would probably a little TikTok. You got to be pretty creative in your classrooms because, it's easier to tune into that device than it is a boring teacher that's going to sit there and do rote memorization and write stuff on the boards. But you got to be creative with your trade now.
Absolutely. No, you absolutely do. And we can get so much inspiration from how people are sharing out on TikTok and doing things as well. You have to stay fresh and have to continue to amp up, what you're doing to be able to engage your kids, empower them. But I want to share this, this Runza thing. So, after we met at Miami Device, we were connected on Twitter and I followed Craig and the things that he was sharing. And I, in my classroom, did this thing called the food truck race. And this was, again, like inspired after I went to that first Miami Device and I started kind of looking into gamification. I really took it and ran. And so I was bringing in these gamified frameworks into my classroom, layering it over what we did. And so in one of my classes where I taught American regional cuisine, I created this great food truck race framework where my students would create these food trucks, menus, logos, names of their food trucks. And then we would hypothetically travel across the United States in our food truck, visiting each region, and students would have the opportunity to change their menus based on the food in that region. We would try different recipes from that region, et cetera. And then they would do their research on the cuisine and culture of that area. Well, we were heading into Nebraska, kind of heading into the Midwest. And I was like, I know exactly who I need to reach out to. I need to reach out to Craig Badura in Nebraska. And because I remembered from that time that we were in Miami that you had talked about the Runza. And I'm like, what in the heck is a Runza? I've never heard of it in my life. And come to find out, like, I think of all of the food in the US, I feel like the Runza is the most regional food that we might have, because I have shared the story of the Runza in lots of different places across the US, and very rarely does somebody know what it is. It's very rare.
They don't.
It's really
that's
funny.
The truth. It is.
It is true. So what I did was I'm going to show you this picture. So this is what a Runza is for any of you who do not know what a Runza is. Craig, I think you would do a better job of explaining what this delicacy is.
Just basically it's cabbage and it's beef, salt and pepper and onion is all it is. Now it started back in the 60s and it's grown regionally to include like Swiss and mushroom, the bacon cheeseburger. They have jalapeno jack. So there's all different varieties. And in fact, my grandma, I actually like to make these personally. Of course, they're not as good as Runzas, but we'll make them and freeze them. So that's really what it is. It's just good old ground beef, onions, and seasonings, and some cabbage in there. Super, super simple to make, but they are delicious. And it's like you just said, a lot of people, what's a Runza? They have no clue until you take them to Runza.
No, they don't. And so I reached out. So I'm going to share with you the conversation. Craig, do you know that I captured this conversation?
No, so I gotta look at this. This is great.
And I tagged him in that first one. This was in 2017. I said, do you have a favorite Runza recipe? It's on the menu for Culinary 3 this week. You said, I love a good Runza casserole. I said, that sounds amazing. I might need a recipe, Craig. He says, let me dig. I said, you rock. And then he said, I'd ship your class a dozen, but it's kind of expensive. Hey, Runza, can you help us out? And guess what? Runza types back, hey, Craig, please share more about your request to Twitter at runza.com.
Yep.
You did. And guess what? We got a full box of Runzas sent to our classroom. They all came on dry ice. So they were frozen when we got them. And so we were able to divvy them all out among my students. They were able to heat them up in the oven, and they got to experience a real life Runza straight from Nebraska in our classroom. And I love this story so much because that is just a little example of the power of being globally connected, right? Like
Yeah.
my
Yep.
students would never have had the opportunity to
Yeah.
have real Runza. Like many of them will never go to Nebraska. This is, I'm 50 years old, and this last week was the first time I'd ever been to Nebraska. Experience a real life Runza. So to be able to share that experience with my
Go full
students
circle. Yeah.
and come full circle, that's really, really powerful. And it was all because I knew a guy in Nebraska that
And
happened to
that's,
talk about
yeah,
Arenza.
that's the power of just asking. It doesn't hurt to ask. And so I think that's when I went into that. I was like, okay, it's going to be $110. I don't have $110 extra spend, send just, I think was it 10 or did a dozen come? Yeah. So it's pricey because I've always wanted to send them up to Dean Cheresky in Canada. Because Dean had Runzas as well. So it's kind of a Twitter thing with the whole Runza thing. So we were able to talk them into shipping them, that's awesome. So, and they do a good job with their social media too. So it's kind of fun to interact with them on social media. So I guess we just hit the jackpot that day. That's awesome.
We did. And so I just think it's really, I think that example is really cool, but I think about really all of the ways that we can connect with other educators around the globe.
Yeah.
And now we have all been exposed to Zoom. Like we all know how to use Zoom, right?
Yeah.
And so, thinking about that, and even bringing in people to interview or to share. We don't have to bring people in face-to-face live into our classrooms anymore.
Right.
Like we can connect with people across the globe and give our students that experience.
We've done stuff with our third graders, the Iditarod, the sled dogs, the Alaska, Yellowstone, park rangers. And the great thing, Tish, is there's a ton of stuff out. It's free. You just got to do a little investigative research. A lot of times I'll let my kids do it as well. But even reaching out to a local person in your community, or even like Mike Smith here in Lincoln, reaching out to Mike, we read his book and ask him to Zoom with us, and he's done that in the past, or just a quick FaceTime. It's the power of being connected has more ways than just doing Runzas, so we can contact authors. We've done, I'm trying to think of the children's author. She writes the I Survived series. I'm drawing a blank here right now. But anyway, if you're watching this, she is super duper awesome about reaching out. I think all of our third and fourth graders, actually, we did a Zoom with her. Actually, before Zoom was cool, it might have been Skype. This was pre-COVID, and she actually, she let us, our kids composed a bunch of questions and asked them. One of our kids in our fifth grade, they were studying Roman history. And so I have a cousin that lives in Rome. And so, boom, let's call him up. And we connected that way. So the power is just, it's unharnessed, right? That we can do so many things with it. It's just, you have to be creative and just kind of think outside the box. And I always just tell my teachers, just take a chance. What's it hurt to ask them and send an email? Would you do this? And I know that those kids, those people more often than not do it.
Yeah, no, 100%. I'm going to share one more picture here. These first graders, they were in Florida, and I did a lot of challenges in my classroom, and my students did a challenge one day that we said it was, I can't remember what I called it, about something about, can you appeal, it was for a first grader, like a first grade focus. Like, can you create a dish that would appeal to a first grader? And so they created these recipes. They took pictures of them. They put them on Padlet. And then we shared the Padlet with these first grade kids, and they went in and they voted on their favorites based on the appearance of these dishes. So of course we couldn't teach them, but they were able to give a vote based on visual appearance. And then we got to have dialogue back and forth with these first graders, and they got to ask questions about what the cuisine was like in Oregon, and we got to ask about the food there in Florida. And so it just, those kinds of experiences are out there if we look for them, and there's lots of educators that would love to be able to connect with your class. I know Melissa Hayes she's outside of Columbus, Ohio, and she does a mystery Zoom with every state in the United States every year.
Mystery Sky, they were the best, and I just thought of that at the end of this year. I thought I should probably do that again. I haven't done them for about 5 or 6 years. My fourth graders love those. But as you were talking about the first, I think 5, 7, 10 years ago, this was kind of a new tool that we were showing kids. Now we're just reinforcing tools that they're going to use in their daily lives. A lot of your first graders right now, I can go to my first grade class and I guarantee you 90% of them have FaceTimes. Who would have thought of that? Or, who would have thought of that 5 years ago? But those kids
Absolutely.
come in each year as my kindergartners, knowing more and more on how to use the device, which has made my job a lot easier, but it's just reinforcing positive ways to use those tools.
Absolutely. And I don't know if did I share this on the screen? I don't think I did. This is a first grade class, and you can see them here with their Padlets, getting to vote on their favorites there. And so, yeah, I mean, unlimited opportunities. There's so
Yep.
many great ways. Here they are voting kind of on their favorite dishes. There's just so many ways that we can connect. And I am so grateful, Craig, that you came on and chatted with me today. And I'm just so grateful for this friendship that's been 10
Yes.
years that we
Crazy.
personally connected. And I know you are doing amazing things, and I'm so glad that I finally got to see your state firsthand.
You bet. I'm glad that you were able to make it, and most importantly, I'm glad that you had the Runza. What do you rate it out of 10?
Oh my gosh, 10 out of 10. I will tell you that
Did you have
knew
ketchup or sans ketchup? Did you go with it
see,
with
I
or
didn't
without?
know this was a thing. I didn't even have anything. I
Oh,
didn't
see,
know.
I load the ketchup. I just jam it in ketchup, and
So
that's all right.
I got pepper jack cheese on it.
Yep.
But
Yep.
what I will tell you, I think was the most surprising was the bread was so good. Like this is
Yep.
like,
Yep.
it's like, I can't explain it, but it's not like, it's just fresh. Like it's like a yeast bread, kind of a dough that's wrapped around this ground
And it
beef.
kind of melts into them. You got to go watch Dave Portney when he was here for the Michigan game this year. When Nebraska played Michigan, they talked him into having a Runza, and you know how he does the food challenge. So just go to YouTube and type in Dave Portney Runza, and he kind of describes that too. He's like, the bread is just really unique. So that's what a lot of people say too, is the bread, and they're like, what is even inside it? So yeah, too fun.
No, it was awesome. And I got I think they're called frings. It's like a mixture of
Rings,
French
yes,
and rings.
Yep.
And I got the ice cream sandwich, all delicious. So I had the full experience. If you, I think on Instagram, I created a reel of my run experience. You can follow it on there. And if anyone wants to connect with you, Craig, what is the best way for them to connect? Or do you have any?
Reach out to me on Instagram at Mr. Badura, and I think I'm on Facebook as well. So there you go.
Fantastic. Well, I really appreciate you being on tonight, Craig. Thank you so much. And
thanks for having me, Tish. I appreciate it.
Hopefully we'll connect again soon.
We need to, sooner than later.
Absolutely. Enjoy yourself.
You too.
Bye-bye. Thanks.